I want to cut across right now to our guests who are joining us. I have with me M. Sridharan Reddy, former Vice Chairman, National Disaster Management Authority, Abhinash Mohanty, climate risk expert and head of climate change and sustainability, Dr. Ritesh Arya, geologist and hydrogeologist. I want to cut across right before I get to our experts on climate, to Mr. Reddy, who's the former vice chairman where National Disaster Management Authority is concerned. Mr. Reddy, you've headed many such operations. What we are witnessing right now in Kishtwar is beyond tragic. Prima facie, we are looking at over 300 who are missing, 65 dead, many critically injured. This happened yesterday. When we are talking about the missing, Mr. Reddy, it's a race against time. 24 hours have already crossed. There's no chopper that has been able to land in Kishtwar. What are we looking at?
Well, in a situation like this, things are very grim. Going back to the experience during the Uttarakhand tragedy, given the terrain, the weather, and the kind of damage that the houses and the entire area has suffered, the chances for survival could be very low, and it's already so as we go into tomorrow, it'll be a day later, and so that is my fear that.
Mr. Reddy, what is the time that as per that experts like you, which is practically the golden hours for at least rescue, because relief can keep coming in. For rescue, because we are actually looking at over 300 who are missing, what is that time when hope starts fading?
Well, I think the kind of topography and then the terrain there is different from what we could find in a typical rescue work on a plain ground in case of floods and an earthquake. So we can't really fix any specific time, but I'm afraid that there won't be much time in a situation like this because of the rain and the damage to the houses and the kind of and they can get trapped in the mud and all that slush. So things are a little if they get protected by chance, something saves them from getting something that will impact their
right.
It's not
Mr. Reddy, I understand your apprehension because we are talking about a number which is really 300 still missing. I understand your apprehension in being able to say that things are looking bleak right now. That's what we are.
I recall the Leh cloudburst going back to 2010 when I was in the NDMA, and it was in the month of August. Somehow August seems to be having when a lot of such incidents take place, but the highest, between Leh and Kishtwar, it's a different situation. But about 255 people had died at that time, and thousands of people, the houses were lost and damaged. But here, one thing that I've talked to senior IMD officials today, and then they don't have any record of the exact rainfall, but by and large, it doesn't appear to be a cloudburst. Cloudburst is when all of a sudden you have 100 millimeter downpour within an hour, which can be very dramatic in a scenario like this with that kind of a topography. But I believe the IMD record is that the last 2-3 days had heavy to very heavy rainfall in the entire area. It was not a specific cloudburst as such, and 12 kilometers away from this particular village, the rainfall yesterday was just 5 millimeters. So this is something in the upper reaches, and this is going to be a challenge.
And this is very peculiar, because while we mourn the loss and we should, And, we don't want to sound alarmist, but the situation is bleak, it's grim. We have over 300 of us who are still right now missing, is what we can say. But the situation is grim, viewers, because time is quickly passing and it's getting bleaker by the hour. I just want to bring in, because, Mr. Reddy touched on something, that he spoke to IMD experts and it doesn't seem to be a cloudburst. And I'll just take you back, viewers, on what happened just last week in Uttarkashi. Because even then, and the Harsil cloudburst, it seemed to not be a cloudburst at Dharali. But the kind of devastation that followed seemed to have at least depicted in terms of optics as a cloudburst, which led to flash floods. I want to bring in Dr. Ritesh Arya as well into this conversation. Dr. Arya, it's peculiar, because what Mr. Reddy said is something that has been echoed by a lot of IMD experts, because they're also wondering that it really doesn't seem to be a cloudburst that led to the kind of flash floods in Kishtwar, which has taken so many lives. Something similar was echoed by experts even during the Uttarkashi Dharali cloudburst, which is ultimately questionable whether or not it was a cloudburst or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very unfortunate that this incident happened, but I was in Leh when this 2010 cloudburst happened in 5th August night. I was entrapped in that. I was saved, but I videographed the entire episode of the Leh cloudburst, and this scenario which you are showing me on the TV are almost similar to the Leh cloudburst. And then I studied the entire mechanism of this flood, which tried to kill. I thought that this flood would have killed me. I would not have been there. So I was motivated to study the entire mechanism of this, and then I spent about a month visiting all the flood hit sites. So your assessments are right in Dharali, also in Uttarkashi, and this and other. While we are watching this, we had floods in Leh, Lamayuru. We had in Suspol, we had floods. So it's happening. So the mechanism is very simple. So then I published that paper in this NDRMC, their journal, and the mechanism is like that. It is not cloudburst. Cloudburst is not is a it's a mechanism. It anywhere when cloud bursts, the rain falls at a proportionately higher in one region. But what we observed when we did all the investigation was the hilltops of the catchments which we visited in Leh were not affected. It was only a stream which triggered this slide, of Shakshi Limpu Nala, and then this miraculously combined all these debris, and then to what we observed in that stream was that there was a landslide, small landslide. It was not a big stream, a small landslide, and that blocked that stream. That formed a reservoir. At that reservoir was formed instantaneously, maybe couple of few seconds or maybe a minute, and then that reservoir formed and then it moved, and we could trace the entire mechanism there, and all the streams, and how that entire this entire water and masses follows. If you see the Dharali videos which are coming up, then they become episodic. One episode, and then a lot of water will come. Then for a couple of hours it will phase out, and then second episode will come. So this happens, and then this entire goes. Then this mechanism happens only for few minutes. That report, if you see, which I published in
Right.
2010, is minute by minute. It demonstrates how this mechanism happens. Now the problem is all the habitations which were new, and which were on the nalas, which on the catchment, which were built later
Right.
on, were affected. But all the old habitations, the money walls, the old money walls, and the old habitations, the monasteries, were least affected by this Leh flood. Similarly, I will be not surprised if only the new habitations which in
Right.
Dharali or in this Kishtwar also, the new habitations which are cropping up in the catchments, which they ignore the geological foundation of the paleo channels of those catchment, then the problem starts. If we
Right.
observe that, if we leave these streams and let these streams live, matlab, if we consider them to a living identity, and leave these
Mm-hmm.
streams and their catchments, there will be no tragedy, and we can live happily with these streams as we have been living in
Right.
the past. It is not, see, if from the pictures which you're showing me, I can observe that all these materials and the habitations which they are which the houses are made are on debris means they have been paleo channels or paleo flooding events in the past, on which these habitations were
Right.
built. So they
So,
ignored this, thinking that okay, we will think, and then tourism comes, and then the land comes, and
true.
the money comes, and then we build wrong habitations in geologically unstable locations, and all these strategies which we are seeing
Well, you
happens.
can't, Dr. Arya, you're quite correct. I think tragedies such as this, and we've seen two in 2 weeks now, viewers, and the expanse of the Kishtwar tragedy is unnerving, to say the least. And at the back of that, if we don't completely redraw on how we want to develop where especially our mountains are concerned, then this is the story that's going to be a yearly, monthly cycle that we're going to witness. I want to bring in Abhinash Mohanty as well into this conversation. Abhinash Mohanty, you heard Dr. Arya. To take that conversation further, of course, the sheer fact of rampant building, urban decay, in especially catchment areas where it shouldn't have happened is a big problem, big issue. How much to that is climate change also a reason?
Good evening, Piti. Happy Independence to all of us.
To you
But
too,
the
sir.
heart goes out in terms of what is happening in Kiswa and what happened a couple of weeks before in Uttakashi. Climate change is, I will say, is more like adding fuel to fire. What climate change is trying to do is all of these factors. Because what Dr. Arya suggested, all these geographies and terrains are fragile ecosystems. Now, what does a fragile ecosystem mean? It is ecologically sensitive, it is geologically sensitive, and hence, if you have to put in an analogy to it, then it's basically, if you want to pull up a dumbbell on a 2 kilogram dumbbell over your hand, and your hand is only capable of 2 kilogram, you put down 200 kg, the dumbbell either will fall down or your hand is going to break up, and that's what happens with this scenario. So climate change triggers all of these factors. So what was happening is you would be having an evenly distributed rainfall across the monsoons because rain is required. But what is happening is because of climate change, there is a temperature rise, and that leads into in terms of trapping of all of these heat within the land. And as a result, these incessant, erratic, sudden downpour of rainfall, cloudburst is one of the reasons that happens. And then you have on top of it, in this across this fragile ecosystem, you have got streams or the paleo channels which are weak, and then they lead into these events becoming disasters. And as a result, what happens is since we have been some way or the other intrigued with unsustainable planning of how our habitations would have been, the fringe habitations tend to be impacted more and more. So, what is required in terms of understanding all of these is a hypergranular risk assessment, to be precise, to understand
Okay.
if there is a rainfall going to happen. Is it going to be triggered also by landslides? Is it going to be triggered to what area and to what extent, so that
Right.
we would be better prepared in a seasonal, in a 2 year,
True.
5 year time scale before we surge and put in all of these infrastructural development at one go. And that's where we need to come in, Priti.
All right. I appreciate all three of you for joining us and giving us your expert opinion on what we're really witnessing. And I think this really requires a deeper understanding and a larger debate where even governance and policy needs to be roped in if we don't want to see visuals like that again. Once again, viewers, it's a happy Independence Day, but with what has really gone down in Kishtwar, our prayers with Kishtwar.